Hi everyone, welcome to part 3 of my top 50 board games of all time. So surely the best 50 board games of all time, right? That's how things work. That's how objective opinions work. Anyway, let's get right into it, shall we? There's going to be one a day. If you're following the series, you've missed 2 of them. They're on the channel, you can find them, can't you? I trust you. There's 2 more coming, one tomorrow, one Monday, and then a Patreon launches. And hopefully that is going to help things get better, bigger, keep them going at least, if you enjoy what I do. Let's go to number 20. That's where we're at now. Wow, 20 already. Here it is. Number 20 is Shadowrun Crossfire. This is it says in the box, I'm not sure if that's in shot, a cooperative deck building game set in the futuristic fantasy Shadowrun universe. So, you know, it's all cyberpunk and stuff, but they've got elves and trolls and things like that. But in this game, we are deck building with a difference. That's one of the reasons that I like it. I love deck builders in general, but this one specifically, rather than building your deck, right, seeing combos and things and building towards some kind of engine or end goal, this is very much what you need in the moment. It's a very, very tough game, to the point where Rachel and I still have a very, very poor win rate at this. But you are looking at the market not in terms of what will complement things on your deck. That's not entirely true. You are thinking of that a little bit, but you are thinking of the situation you're currently in, the enemies you are currently up against, the objective, the crossfire card that is affecting you right now, and it is very much in the moment and always feels like the pressure is massively on you. You have to have cuts when you don't put your phone on mute. Another big positive of the game is it's not necessarily a legacy game, although we do write on our things with, you can use dry white markers to note down your characters' names and stuff, but this is an ongoing, I don't know how to put it. It's a scenario-based game where we'll pick some kind of objective, and they play fairly differently as well. There is a little expansion to this that added a few more of them, but we are playing through different scenarios each time, but keeping the same characters, unless you want to change them up. And every time you will earn karma, which is Crossfire's version of experience. And as you upgrade your character, as you earn karma, you will unlock these stickers. So I guess in that way it is legacy, in that is quite permanent unless you use post-its or something like that. You are gaining abilities and tuning your character as you get stronger and stronger. But in doing so, the game gets stronger against you as well, and you are going to have to, tailor your characters to try and fit the new challenge that the game is going to put against you. That part in itself is, I've mentioned other, scenario or campaign-based games in the list. I really do love that element of it, and part of that is going through these experiences with the same characters, getting used to your character, getting to know them if there's more of a story to it. Here you are, you're just a name and you are different based on your race and class and stuff like that. But seeing your character evolve and upgrade through game after game after game, even through the losses, if you play intelligently, you can still earn some XP, and not just intelligently, you'll need some luck sometimes as well. But yeah, it's a game that maybe through just people convincing me, the designers saying that they have a crazy high win rate at this. I can't remember the exact number. Yeah, maybe that's what you would say, isn't it? Even if you had an impossible game. But I choose to believe that and think that one day we will achieve some kind of greatness at Shadowrun Crossfire. That went on a while, didn't it? Let's do 19. And number 19 is a Feast for Odin from designer Uwe Rosenberg, back again. And this is another worker placement game. He's known for those, isn't he? And this is kind of fused with a tile laying game, the polyomino tile laying game, in that we are tribes of Vikings, and we are doing quite thematic things. We're having feasts, and you need to feed your people, not in such a punishing way as in some of his other games. We have this great big player board here, and you'll see it's full of minus points, and over the course of the game you will be grabbing pieces These are special pieces, by the way, not the general ones you'll get. These were higher up in the box, though, to grab. You will be placing these on your player board and trying to arrange them in such a way that you will get bonuses every round, that you might get some coins as income, but mainly to cover up all of these negative points and try and make everything slot nicely in a big, beautiful Tetris puzzle. Now, it's done through, as I mentioned, worker placements, but it's a crazy worker placement board as well. Just full of action spaces. It's not as mad as it looks, that there are these columns that need you to put more and more workers down to get to the better actions, and a lot of actions are just more powerful versions of the action earlier on the same row. It's not like every single one is unique and you need to memorize them all, although there's a fair bit you need to know going into it. I think there's been some already, haven't there? I filmed this on a different day. I can't even remember the rest of the top 50 already. But yeah, I love Uwe Rosenberg games. I am still a big fan. No matter how many come out, I am a fan of worker placement as just a base thing. It changes it up by having that element that you have quite a large number of workers, quite a large pool of them, but you are not just trying to decide what kind of actions you want to take. You are deciding on the strength or the different flavor of the action based on how many people you are willing or able to commit to that action as well. It also has some card play as well, that you through playing a lot of workers, you will get to draw cards and then you can take actions to play cards. Got that the wrong way around. And yeah, you are building up a kind of, not necessarily a huge engine, but you will get better at certain elements of the game. You will get rewarded for doing them. And there's emigrating your people to earn points. You can go to new islands as well. So as well as having this starting board, there's lots of extra little boards that you have that all have their different flavor to them, whether it's getting you more animals, getting you a load more income, mainly though getting you as many points as possible. And yeah, the fusion of the kind of game that I know I like anyway from Uwe, the fusion of that with the Tetris-y polyomino puzzle that's not the be all and end all of the game, but is a very significant part of it. Just absolutely love A Feast for Odin. There's a solo playthrough of this one that you can check out. Number 18 is Peloponnes from Bernd Eisenstein, and this is an auction game. It's kind of a civilization building auction game, which usually I'm put off by the word auction. Not that much of a fan anyway, but also at primarily playing at two players, they don't tend to work that well. They lose a lot of their magic when you only have two people playing them. Not so in Peloponnes. Here we have a load of tiles each round, and it's you are building, you're getting buildings, or you are obtaining more fields and things to build up your particular civilization, and you are trying to increase your population, get luxury goods, increase your prestige in general, and it's done through an auction, but an auction in quite a different way, in that the tiles are laid out, they all have a minimum bid on them, and when it comes to your bid, you need to come up with an amount, and it has to be higher than the minimum, obviously, that's why it's a minimum. But you pile up your coins and your disc to say that it's yours, so I'm going to bid, the minimum's 3 on this, I'm going to bid 3 for this tile. And so that's all well and good. Then it rolls around to another player who fancies that tile, so he's going to bid 4 for it. Not so much of a problem in a normal auction. Okay, we're going to bid each other up and it'll go on and on. No, in Peloponnes, your first bid, that's it. My 3 comes off that tile now, and I need to put it somewhere else. And I have to hope that there's another tile that's, the minimum is 3 at the most, and that it hasn't got a bid from somebody else on it that's, 3, because you need to outbid them. You can't match them. And so sometimes if you're, if you're that cheap about it, or maybe you've run out of money and you didn't have any choice, you have to sheepishly take back your bid. You get rewarded a little bit for it. You get some extra money as compensation, but you're just out of the auction. So that makes just the fact that you only have one chance to make your bid is such. It's not everything about it, but it's such a huge part of what is so delicious about the auction in it. It's not just about trying to figure out what tiles are the best for you, how to balance your stats as well, because you have 2 scores in this. You have the scores on some of your tiles, and then your population score, and your worst of the two. It's not entirely that. I've said that wrong. But you have two scores, and it's your worst that is your final score. So it's not about going all in on one thing. It's about trying to judge the balance so that you can have the best score in it. But while you are trying to dream up, your best combination, the best tile that's out for you, you were trying to think about, how much money have the other players got? What do I think that they are going to go for? How much can I afford to bid on this? It's like in other auction games, if I start high, then I've just robbed myself because nobody cared about this. No one was going to bid that much. So, I've cost myself money. But if you go in too low, not only will you lose the thing that you want, you could potentially lock yourself out of everything else as well. Peloponnes has a ton of little expansions for it that increase the player count. I think it goes up to 7 players or something. There's loads. They're collected in a box, actually, now. I've got them kind of individually. I'm missing one, if you find it. But, yeah, it's grown and grown to the point where, you have to take a lot of that out to introduce it to new players because it ends up with all of these little extra things. But, once you are experienced with it, having everything turned on is brilliant. There are little extras everywhere, like there are little ocean tiles that you can get that will give you points that you can spend your money on. There are little trade tiles where if you bid the highest, usually you're going to have to go first next round. The person who bid the lowest gets to use these trade tiles to convert some of their resources. There's loads of extra things to it, and yeah, I would always play this over any auction game, but that's clear because there's no other auction games in this top 50, is there? Peloponnes. Number 17 is Among the Stars from designer Vangelis Bagiartakis. Vangelis? I'm close, aren't I? This is a card drafting game of space station building, really. We have these lovely square cards. They have art on them on the side I should be showing you. And we have a hand of these. We all have a hand of them, and we're going to pick one every round, do something with it, usually put it on our space station, but not exclusively, and then pass it to the next player. The 7 Wonders, beautiful kind of card drafting where you are trying to figure out what's best for you. You don't want to give these things to the other players, all of that good stuff. But Among the Stars adds the extra element of spatial planning because we are building these space stations. These are all, rooms. These are all different areas in our space station. And so as well as maybe trying to collect certain things like the ability, get a point for each location of this type in your station, that kind of thing, just the general planning. There are tons of cards that relate to positioning, like you get extra points if you have at least 2 purple locations within 2 of this one, all of that kind of stuff. There is also an element of energy in the game that more powerful cards will require energy as well as money to pay for them. And so some turns you'll have to spend putting, power stations down so that you will have the energy to build the big card, hoping maybe that it comes back around to you by the time you've built that power station. And then you have to build it within a certain distance of that as well. It's just absolutely fantastic. It's head and shoulders above any of the other card drafting games, probably because of that, the spatial building element of it, but also the theme as well. This was re-implemented by a game called Fields of Green. I did a playthrough for that one because it came out more recently, but I think partly down to the theme I love a lot more, the space station building over the farming, although Fields of Green does do some different things. I think it's just a carbon copy of it because it's got some unique things to it as well. I love the theme of Among the Stars. I also love the amount of stuff that there is out for this. There are 2 expansions for Among the Stars, and there is a standalone expansion for it as well called Revival, where you can just get that if you want to. I think that's it has special 2-player rules in that one as well. Although all of the Among the Stars have some great 2-player rules. The amount of stuff for it is a huge positive and also a little bit of a negative, as one of the reasons, and this does happen with some games after they get expanded to a point, that I'm sure there have been times when I've thought, we'd like a game of Among the Stars, and then got to organising it and getting the game together and picking through the expansions and which bits are we going to turn on and, how does that bit work again? But yeah, sometimes it doesn't get played for that reason because, I can't really... This is through, I don't know what, through a second-hand copy of Among the Stars and then backing various Kickstarters for it over the years. I've got these pencil cases and just boxes and boxes and organisers everywhere for just cards and cards and cards of stuff. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you really like it, there is a lot available for Among the Stars. Maybe too much, but at the same time, I would like to see more. Maybe just to keep it in everyone's mind. It's been a long time since Revival. Maybe Fields of Green is the thing now, and that's going to be the focus. But wouldn't it be great for Among the Stars to keep going? Maybe you haven't played it, though, and you're not going to agree with me. Agree with me, though. It's brilliant. There'll be a playthrough one day, though. One day, this will win the vote, and we will see it in all of its glory. Number 16, we are back with good old Mr. Feld for Macao. This is a game about trading, really. We are sailing about Macao, trying to gather, not really resources, gather artifacts. That's not the word for it. We are sailing them around the board. Just from the look of it, you might get a very conventional Euro feel from this kind of thing. We're getting things from here. We are sailing them around the board, trying to get the most of them. We are getting cards. You get special cards every round that are going to give you powers throughout the game. You pretty much have to take them as well, and will get penalised if you get too many of them. And you are trying to get the right combination of cubes to get those cards out and get their powers in action. But that sounds all very fairly standard stuff, really, doesn't it? The big hook, the big gimmick to Macao is the Windrose. Am I remembering that right? It's the Windrose. We have these dice that represent all of the different colours of action cubes that we can get throughout the game. At the beginning of a round, we roll these dice. And we get to pick 2 of those dice. And the number on the dice determines the number of action cubes you are going to get of that colour. And so, you might think, well, surely you'll go for the highest number every time. Well, not necessarily, because you get, if you take a 6, you're going to get 6 purple cubes, for example, but you have to put them in the slot that's 6 turns in the future. So it's all about balancing what you desperately need now by what you could potentially get done if you stock up. You can end up having turns where you've got hardly anything to do, and then turns where you've just got a wealth of cubes stocked up because you've got the right combination of numbers and just banked everything on this turn where you've just poured everything in there. I think that element of you can't plan too much because you take your cards and stuff before you see these the cubes come out, before you know what the dice are going to be. So it's not like you can perfectly plan all of this stuff. The dice are throwing a spanner in the works often, but I do absolutely love that aspect of it, and there is nothing else like it at all. It's another one that is sadly, and probably some games I haven't mentioned are too, this is another one that is sadly out of print and has been for as long as I have been playing games, for is it 6 years, something like that. This is a Dutch copy that I managed to get cheap, and it's got some paste ups that I found on Board Game Geek. If you ever come across a foreign language copy of it, then it's with a little bit of work, then you can make it serviceable. But yeah, Stefan Feld's Alia games. As much as I am pleased as punch that they are redoing Castles of Burgundy has always been available as well. Macao and some of the others, get them back out. Macao. Number 15 is Russian Railroads, which is another worker placement game. I told you I liked them, where we are building, in the base game anyway, Russian railroads. We have our player boards here where we are trying to build tracks to different Russian cities. And how do we do this? Through worker placement. We are getting workers that will give us special action spaces exclusive to us. We are getting trains to enable special bonuses, but the main thing we are doing is laying different types of track. There are action spaces on the board that will allow you to lay, they start off with the black track, grey, brown, bone, and then white. And the whole game is this, the big thing about it is this grand scale of escalation, which happens in a lot of games, but I'm not sure it happens to the degree that it happens with Russian Railroads elsewhere. You start out in the game, your score is always built on round by round, and you start out just scoring a measly few points in your first couple of rounds. By the end of the game, that can translate to a ridiculous number as your various multipliers and bonuses all start kicking off at once. because you are trying to progress the tracks, which represents you laying these tracks as far as you can. Each player has all of the different colours of track at their disposal. Well, yeah, you have to at their disposal. At their disposal, you have to lay them in order, from worst to best. And then, not only do you have to do that, though, you have to get the trains. The trains are all numbered 1 to 9, I believe. And so you have to get trains that add up to a value where you've laid track up to. So if I've gotten to the very end of this with my most amazing track, it's a 15. So I'd better hope that my trains here add up to 15, because, if I've only got I've got a 9 train, brilliant, but that's all I've got. I'm only going to score up to here, and I lose a load of it. And it's not just that. There are special bonus tiles that you can get over the course of the game that change up your particular way of doing things. And it's not like you have to go any particular way. These tracks work together in very different ways. And as well as getting workers, you can get them as buildings instead. That's the wrong word, I know. But you can get them down here on this industry track that can trigger a load of bonuses for you as you progress along it, but also get you a ton of points as well. So Russian Railroads by itself is an absolutely fantastic game, but there are 2 incredible expansions for it as well. German Railroads, which, much the same gameplay with extra workers and things, I believe, but your player boards instead have great big sections that are kind of empty, and when you reach them, you get to pick from a load of tiles and completely customize your very own player board. You get to decide which path you are going down by what you have on there. And then there is American Railroads that adds a stock market of getting resources instead. Very, very different and all fantastic. But yeah, even if it was just the base game, I would absolutely be recommending Russian Railroads. It's brilliant. Number 14 is Kitchen Rush from designer David Turczi and Vangelis Bagiotakis, Among the Stars Man. This is a real-time cooperative game. Did I mention earlier that I really love those? Where we are workers in a restaurant. We are in a kitchen. We're not necessarily just chefs though, we're maitre d's and all sorts. And in this game, we are basically trying to serve dishes to customers under immense time pressure, because, as well as normally real-time games tend to do it with, Galaxy Trucker's got its tiles, Flatline has got its dice, Project Elite with the dice and the incessant chucking and stuff. Kitchen Rush does it in a very different way, where it's a worker placement game, really. There are worker placement spots on the board, but your workers are hourglasses, they are sand timers. And so when you place your worker to do an action, you have to leave it there until the sand has run out. You can go and do your action and stuff, but you can't go and do another action until that has run out. And you do have a couple of workers. But not just that, but nobody else can do that action if there are no other spots available. You are blocking spots off for other players as well until your sand timer is done. So it requires so much cooperation and communication and coordination and other things beginning with K. And yeah, it's all wrecked by your best laid plans are ruined by the ever present, ever diminishing time pressure that is on you. It's just absolutely fantastic. I think it does such an amazing job of capturing the feel of it, despite never. I worked at Subway once. I'd never worked in a proper kitchen, but I feel like I am under that pressure. We've seen Gordon Ramsay shows. We know exactly what it's like to work in a restaurant. So yeah, I think that it gets that theme across so brilliantly, but just the gameplay itself is so fun, so stressful in a brilliant way. You do have to be a fan of that, not just of real-time games in general, but of ones that are quite punishing. And yeah, this can fall apart down to one player who just it's not clicking with, and it can feel very bad for the person that's kind of causing the rest of the people to fail. And it can be very, very difficult to start off with as well. But it's just it's sublime. It's so brilliant. And it has an expansion, a piece of cake expansion that adds desserts and all of this kind of stuff, but it adds ice creams to it. And you've got a little freezer full of the ice creams, and the ice creams are awkwardly shaped so you can't get them out of there. It's full of little twists like that are, they it comes across really thematically. They're like, oh, we've got a nice little cardboard freezer for these ice creams now. Isn't that nice? No, it's not, because it's going to be a real pain to try and get them out of there. Like the spices that you get for the dishes are in in an opaque bag. Just so it's another thing you need to communicate about. It's another thing that's going to waste your time. If you aren't communicating properly, looking at the spice bag for your thing, and it's not there, and nobody said anything to you, and now you've wasted your action there. You're blocking the spice bag for other people, and then still you've got to go and buy the spices and then come back here later. It all works together so beautifully. I've got a playthrough for the original game that's actually got Rachel in it. That may be the first game I've mentioned that's got a rare Rachel appearance in it, because real time, you need someone else in it. And yeah, I did an overview for the expansion as well that just makes a fantastic thing even better. Kitchen Rush. Number 13, another one from Underwater City's Vladimir Suhi. This is Shipyard. And in this game, we are going around and round and round rondels. They are everywhere in this game. I won't get it all out. There's a playthrough that should be playing in front of my hand here. Our essential aim of the game is we are running a shipyard. We are building ships. We're building Titanic-looking things like this. And we are, as soon as you complete your ship, it goes on a shakedown cruise, it's called, across little sections of river that you've kind of had permission to run a boat across, and that's where your main method of scoring is. You get points for various things that you have put on your ships and various bonus spaces that you'll go across as you go down this river. But everything in this game is kind of controlled by rondels. You will get special bonus tiles, and there is a marker saying where you can take them from. You can move the marker a few spaces. You can pay, to move it to where you need it to. But otherwise, it's set for you where you need to take it. The additions to your ship is a separate little rondel. The crew that you can get for your ship. There is, a display of pieces that you need to pay more the higher up the pieces from, and so you have to weigh up, what building the perfect ship is going to do versus the cost it's going to do, because money is so important in it. Because if you save enough money, you can spend it on extra turns. It's all down to you. You can be really, really frugal and get a load of extras. But was that worth it? Because you could have just spent it on better things. I feel like before I did the playthrough, I was going on about this game all the time, and yeah, maybe it's because Rage doesn't like this game, and yeah, I'm just thinking of how I can get it played more. You have special objectives that you are working towards as well, like using certain pieces as many times as you can on your ship, building ships of a certain size, getting massive amounts of points for building massive ships, but it's going to take you ages and you're hardly going to get to build any of them at all. I think it's another one that is very, very sadly out of print. I believe it's the 10th anniversary this year. CGE? Shipyard? Maybe? It's not going to happen, is it? We'd have heard about something by now. I think, though, I went into it a lot more in the playthrough itself, but I love everything about Shipyard. Maybe it's, as I mentioned for SOS Titanic, maybe it's that lingering childhood obsession with the Titanic that's making me... I'm sure these aren't anything like it. A ship buff can tell me how I'm wrong about it, but I barely can remember port and starboard, really. It's the Titanic to me. Shipyard. Number 12 is Dominion from, as we mentioned earlier, with Kingdom Builder, superstar designer Donald X. Vaccarino. This is... I don't want to get into firsts and stuff. I don't know my history well enough for that. But the grandfather, the genesis of... Well, that says first, doesn't it? Ignore I said that. The grandfather of deck building games. Probably the most well-known and, yeah, for our money, still the best out there. This is a game where you have a ton of different card types. You pick 10 of them each game, and you start off with some coins and a few points in your deck, and you are using those coins to buy kingdom cards that will do all sorts of things, from the very basic of just drawing more cards, having more actions, getting some more money, being able to buy multiple cards in a turn, to, at this stage, I think it's got... Is it 12 expansions it's got at this point? To, cards that happen, cards that you play now and won't happen until next turn, duration cards that stay out. There are cards that give you, coin markers that you can hoard up to be able to buy the most expensive cards later on. I've done playthroughs for I think the Nocturne expansion and at least the Empires expansion, that was an early playthrough. Yeah, it's one that's like I've barely scratched the surface because I've only used 10 cards each from those two expansions, when there is a ridiculous amount in this. The groaning that happened when I pulled this off the shelf, there is a reason this is on the very bottom of the shelves behind me. This weighs a ridiculous amount. It's got a wooden insert in it, just packed with cards, and that's not everything. It's one where if you play this and love it, there is surely enough. There's way more cards than we'll probably ever see in this. Even if I stopped the channel right now, stopped filming, and we just kept playing Dominion over and over and over again, I'm sure that the combinations would just keep coming. Is it the Renaissance expansion that was the last one? That's still sealed. When we're gonna get to that? And then that's a whole load more added to it. I think just for the simplicity of the base system of it is just, look at these kingdom cards and form a plan. See some synergy, see some combos between what you happen to have drawn. There are apps that you can get for your phone that, you tell it which expansions you've got and it'll come up with a random set for you. They're all just randomizer cards in the box as well, but we just tend to throw everything together, get a random set of 10, and then that is the beauty of the game. Trying to see what is going to interact with what. What are we going to go for first? How is this all going to pull off? Will we have time to do it? Is someone just going to, find a nice, easy strategy and just, try and rush the end of the game? It's so different every time. As I said, there is an insane amount of variety for it. Yeah, it's all at cost. You have to buy expansion after expansion to get that variety. But if you love deck builders, I'm sure you've tried Dominion if you really, really love deck builders, but if not, you've got a real treat in store for you. And finally, for this part, number 11 is the Gallerist from designer Vital Lacerda. I've got a playthrough for this. It's going to cover up the box a little bit. Have you missed entries with enormous boxes? In this game, we are owners of art galleries, competitively trying to discover artists, buy their artwork, display it in our galleries, and sell a lot of it for some cold hard cash. Is this the first Vital Lacerda entry? I don't want to go into a big spiel about why I like his designs if I've already done that, but I don't think I have. Vital Lacerda makes, I think, incredibly thematic games and, quite complicated systems that, run surprisingly smoothly for how heavy they seem. There is a weird loop involved in a lot of them where every action kind of affects another action, and it's not just a case of, oh, I want to do this action so I need to go to this space. It's never that simple because so many of the pieces in his games affect all of the other sections of the game as well. So there are usually many ways you can go about getting what you want done. So here, what is so nice, not just for, I think this is the first of the Eagle Griffin of the deluxe Vital Lacerda games where he started teaming up with Ian O'Toole for just beautiful, beautiful products. But I just love the system of this game, and yeah, it might be the theme of it as well. That it's a great. It's just a great system for, discovering these artists, trying to get them more famous, promoting them. We get special tokens if we discovered them so that when they're rich and famous, if we haven't cashed it in yet, we can still say, we're the people that made you, give us some artwork cheap. You are trying to collect all of these various tokens for endgame scoring by putting workers out on an international market. It's got a really nice system of, there are only 4 spots for worker placement on the board, and when you leave one to go and do another action, you leave behind an assistant if you've got one, and then if somebody else takes that action in the future and kicks out your assistant or kicks you out of wherever you are, then you get not necessarily a full action, but it can be. You can get little bonuses for free, but if you have influence to spend, you can get whatever section they went to. If you pay enough influence, then you can have a turn as well. So it's not just about the face value thing of, planning where you're going to take your next action, seeing what you need to get done. There is also this this brilliant balancing of influence to not just be able to take all of these extra turns, and sometimes you need to pay influence for certain things like promoting the artists. You are always trying to figure out how to be able to pay the least to be able to take these extra actions, how to always leave yourself in a position to be able to take these extra actions, so that sometimes people might think, I don't necessarily want to kick him out because he's about to get a really cheap free turn there. But also, influence in the game can be used as money. Whenever you pay money for stuff, you can drop down this influence track certain spaces to get discounts on it. So there is this really fundamental part of the game that's, again, it's affecting loads of different facets of it. It's a beautiful, beautiful production as well. I think I mentioned that. Lovely, lovely deluxe thing. It does come at a price, of course, but I think this is an absolutely fantastic game, and you can check out my solo playthrough of it if you would like to find out more. So there we go. That's 20 to 11. There's only 10 more left. What could it be? What do you think is going to be in the top 10? Surely you can guess a few that haven't been there yet. Maybe. I'm not going to give any clues. I'll be back tomorrow for the final 10 of this and the culmination of all this, the launch of the Patreon. It'll be something new. It'll be something different. Hopefully you enjoy what I do and you want to come over there. We are going to be live tomorrow as well. This is another part of the video that's very specific to now, isn't it? It's going to be weird in the future if people are watching the video. But yeah, we're going to be live on Monday as well at 6 p.m. GMT. So yeah, join us there if you would like a chat and stuff, not just about the Patreon, about whatever you like. I'll see you then. Bye, everyone.